Hey there, welcome back to Move with Joe. Today we have a great lesson on freeing up the neck and spine and also including more of the base of support that will help provide the ease in the neck. Oftentimes people move just from the neck and they forget about this whole torso, this whole trunk in the spine that are also connected to movements of rotation and flexion extension. So let's go ahead and dive into today's lesson. You can start either in a cross-legged position, sitting on the floor, or if it's more comfortable for you in a chair, you can also do that. Just as a reference point, begin to turn your head whichever direction feels easier, and just go as far as what feels comfortable. What's within an easy, comfortable range. So you can do that once or twice in the direction that feels easy. And then turn and move the other way and just notice what the range is there. And then you can turn all the way from the right to the left and left to the right. And as you go, notice how your eyes track. Is there a sense that you begin to look a little higher over one shoulder and maybe a little lower towards the other? Or you can bring your attention to your chin. Is there a sense that the chin begins to come closer to the chest on one side and a sense of it maybe coming into a bit of extension as you look over the other side? So you begin to become aware of some of these small preferences that you have. And so if any of these movements are uncomfortable, you can always stop, you can visualize the movement, but never push yourself into any type of discomfort. Let's begin with slowly beginning to take your head into flexion. So you begin to round your chin towards your chest. And you do that a couple times. And you can notice as you move down, is there a sense of going a little bit more to the right or to the left with your chin? And whichever way it feels easier, begin to take yourself more into that direction. So you move into the pattern that's easier. And as you make this movement, you can begin to get a sense of what's happening in the back of your neck. And then go ahead and take it to the other direction a few times. And you may notice that there's a different sense of pulling in the back of the neck on this direction. All right. So take a moment to rest. And as you're resting, you can get a sense of the length up and through your spine and the support of the spine and where your relationship of your head is on top of your spine. Oftentimes people's heads will tend to be a little bit forward, rounded forward. It might be a little bit more flexed. So you can just get a sense of that spinal column coming up and through your chest into where your shoulder girdle is and coming up and through into the base of the skull. Where is it that you have that base of support? And so you can kind of get a sense of if your head was a little bobblehead, which direction would be easier for it to go in the forward back plane, the sagittal plane. So would it be easier to extend or flex? For me, it's quite a bit easier to take my head back, but that's my preference and yours might be very different. All right, so we begin again to take the head into a little bit of flexion. And this time we're going to begin to roll the head towards the right shoulder. And as it comes to the right shoulder, we're going to begin to bring the right shoulder towards the head. And then we'll roll them away from each other so the head comes back to the center and then you can lift. So it's this rounding, flexing, and then beginning to roll the head out to the right shoulder. You bring the right shoulder up to meet the head, and then you roll them away from each other. So you begin to make this movement, noticing what range is easy, not having a sense of having to push beyond that range. And you can pay attention to your diaphragm. Are there moments where you begin to hold your breath? You continue to make this movement, and if it's comfortable, if it's possible, you can roll it all the way to your shoulder and your right ear come together, so the left ear is facing up towards the ceiling, and then you roll it back to center. And then give it a rest. And if you'd like, you can go ahead and lie down on your back for the moment. Give your legs a rest. You can begin to roll your head a little to the right, a little to the left. And now that your head's being supported so that the musculature isn't having to be engaged, you might notice that it's even easier. There's a greater sense of freedom to begin to roll your head. So the tone, the tension in our body is directly related to the sense of support that we have coming from the ground up and through us. And when there's less support, it means that the muscles have to engage more, which means that they're less available for movement because they're already being engaged holding you upright. All right, good. So come on back up. And this time, go ahead and cross your legs in the opposite way. And you can use your arms for support here, but have a sense of not falling into your arms, but instead have a sense of the arms are just there as a little bit of support, as if they're coming away from the floor, so you're not collapsed into them. And this time, begin to flex your head forward and begin to round your head to the left shoulder and then back. And you can begin to notice as you bring your head over to the left and back, and you bring your left shoulder to your head, at what point do you begin to notice the ribs on the left maybe beginning to lift and lengthen? That's good. All right. So pause and let that rest. And as you're resting, go ahead and just begin to turn to the left, turn to the right. And you can notice if it's a little easier, if there's any more sense of comfort. Maybe you notice that you begin to look farther around yourself. But just notice where you get to now. And then when you come back, begin to bring your head into extension. So you begin to tip your head backwards so that your eyes come onto the horizon. But I don't want you to come back in a way that you pinch the back of your neck. I want you to have a sense of elongating. So from your pubic bone all the way up through your belly button into your abs, your sternum, all the way up through the length of your neck and into your chest. And you begin to have this sense of lengthening out of yourself, extending away from the floor, and then coming back. And as you begin to go into extension, just notice which side does your head tend to have a preference towards. Does the back of your head start to go to the right? Does it go to the left? And oftentimes it's a relatively small amount of movement. But if we really begin to pay attention in that trajectory, you might begin to notice that there is, in fact, a preference. And as you begin to extend, you can also pay attention to the front of your neck. Which side do you begin to feel more of a stretch? In your suprahyoids, the front of the neck, the SCMs, which side begins to have more of a pull? All right, good. Okay, so pause for a moment. Go ahead and lie down your back. And here, once again, you can just roll your head a little to the right, a little to the left. And you can notice the sense of ease now. All right, so come on back up. And cross your legs again. Begin to bring your head into extension back, and begin to bring the back part of your head towards your right shoulder and the back of your right shoulder towards your head. And then come back to your starting point. So we're first going into extension back, rounding the head towards the right shoulder coming to the head, rolling back into extension, bringing the head back up. Until the point where your head can rest on the shoulder if it's comfortable. There's no need to push it if that's not comfortable. Good. And then go ahead and we'll play with the left now. So begin to take the head back into extension, still having a sense of lengthening up through the front side, rolling the head to the left shoulder and the left shoulder coming to the head. And you can begin to pay attention to your sense of support from your sit bones up and through you. How do you have this sense of lengthening up and through your sit bones? Could you even begin to imagine initiating the movement of taking your head from the movement of the sit bones? So if I were to begin to maybe roll my sit bones forward a little bit and create this lengthening up through the front of my abdomen, creating this extension back, how might that change the quality of the movement? And then as I came back, I could even tuck my tail under a little bit. All right, good. Give that a rest. Again, just take the head to the left and to the right. You can begin to notice the quality of the movement now. And just have a sense if there's any change in that sense of skeletal organization, the sense of support coming up and through the skeleton, and the relationship of the head to the skeleton. Is there a sense of being slightly more stacked on top of yourself? You may even notice that there might be less strain in your eyes. The more organized you are, the more organized and free your head is to move, the less that your eyes have to strain to pull to see across the horizon. All right. So to wrap this lesson up, we'll combine it into a full circle. So we can start by taking the chin down. We can go to the right. Right shoulder comes up to meet the right ear. You begin to roll the head back, right shoulder comes down, head goes to the left shoulder comes up, head rolls forward. And so you begin to make this circular movement, rolling your head from one shoulder to the other. And you can begin to experience the quality of how one shoulder comes up as the other comes down. You can reverse the movement. Notice what your rib cage is doing, which side of your rib cage is lengthening, which side is compressing. All right, good. So to add a little bit more challenge, and just to get a sense of that amount of tone that is required, go ahead and come back on both your elbows. And from here, you can begin to extend the head into some circles, rolling. And you'll notice that there should be quite a bit more effort in order to make this movement now because you don't have that base of support underneath you. So you'll need to find a new sense of support. So how is it that you begin to use your elbows and your hands? How do you begin to use your spine as you make this movement? The sense of when might you start to extend your chest and when will you start to collapse into your chest? So just for a moment, as you take your head back towards the floor, extend the chest. And as you take the head forward, flex the chest. So you round the chest towards the floor. And as you take your head back, you extend the chest. Take the head forward, you round the chest towards the floor. All right, good. So come on back up to sitting. Once again, you can begin to turn your head to the right, turn your head to the left. Notice the quality of the movement now. As you turn, you can begin to have a sense of lengthening out of your sit bones, as almost the sit bones begin to come away, and if you had this little spiraling up and through your spine. And just see what that does. And you can use your hands as well as a sense of the hands coming up and away from the floor. So everything becomes lighter. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. The keys were really about how you find that support from the sit bones up and through the spine, creating that base of support so that the head is free to move on top of the spine. And in our day-to-day lives, oftentimes we tend to get pulled into the computer screen that we're working on. And so when that happens, everything kind of moves forward and our head gets pulled forward, and then we no longer have that base of support underneath us. So the more we can maintain staying on top of our sit bones, so when we have that sense of support, our head is all of a sudden a lot more free to move, our eyes can be more relaxed, they don't have to strain as much. And ultimately, you're going to be a lot more comfortable with less tension through the shoulders and through the upper back and chest. All right, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hopefully you have a greater sense of ease and mobility in your neck. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Tell me what you liked about the lesson, and let me know what you're interested in working on next.